Welcome back to the Wealth Builder podcast. My name's Nick Donato, and I'm a financial advisor at Guidance Financial. In recent years, we've seen an increase in self-employment across Australia. This has been affected by various factors, more employees wanting flexible work arrangement, a large digital market out there that people can leverage off, especially post-COVID. People want to follow their passions and have some flexibility. So today I'll be joined by Ange Belot from Cheeky Kookaburra to chat about her journey to self-employment and how she built her successful small business. Welcome in, Ange. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. So you run your own small business, Cheeky Kookaburra. Did you want to tell us a bit
Yeah,
about that
sure.
and what that
Yeah.
is?
Cheeky Kookaburra is nearly 6 years old, and is now a digital marketing agency. So a lot of our clients engage us to build and look after their websites, their create and manage their social media. Um, we do videography and photography for businesses. And then also we've just started to move into the Facebook ads, meta ad space as well. That's mostly what we do.
Lovely. Is AI changing your space or evolving your space? Because we talk a lot about AI, I guess, at work and everywhere.
Of course. Look, I've seen fellow business owners be very threatened by AI, and I think I was one of those, especially when the visual component started to really be embraced with AI. You know, put a picture of, my painting on the back of the wall and then it moves in my logo, like all of that stuff. It makes a lot of our creation side of things redundant sometimes. But in the last 12 months, a lot of my business growth has happened because of embracing AI and seeing it genuinely as a tool, um, and and being transparent with the client that AI is being used. I think everyone's pretty, roughly across the fact that it is being used, and we don't hide from that. So we just embrace the fact that it is a tool, and we use the tool to a degree. There's a place for it, and then there's that creative human touch that always needs to go into it, and minimize the threat and just embrace what it is. Then it's a good combo, and it's worked well in our business. So yeah, it's minimized the threat significantly. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I guess that's might have been one of the challenges you faced when growing your small business, and we'll ch touch on a couple of other challenges that you might have faced throughout your 6 years. But why did you initially start Cheeky Kookaburra?
Yeah. So I worked in the film and TV industry for 10 years. And I was in Melbourne at the time. And anyone that works in creative industries, particularly in Australia, will know that there is a very, you know, lack of funding there, in every aspect of the arts. And what was happening was I was working as a senior producer in production companies, and because of technology moving so fast and the quality of phones and freelancers being able to produce, shoot, and edit content, what was happening, there was a lot of pressure on bigger production companies. Um, there was minimal work and there was a lot of stress. And what ended up happening is I would end up in these productions and on sets where it was very toxic. It wasn't a very nice place to work anymore. So I was very burnt out from the industry. It's a very hard industry to be in, particularly in Australia. Um, and then, funnily enough, I was made redundant in that job anyway. And At the time, I was very lost in terms of like, I'm so burnt out by the industry. I don't know where to go from here. It's all I've ever known. And then my partner and I at the time, we moved to South Australia. Um, just the plan was just 12 months. I'll work at a winery. I'll, live hospital life, and you can leave the work at the door and go home and not care and, live a free for 12 months while I was figuring out what to do. And then, of course, the pandemic shut down the country. So we got locked into South Australia. Um, and then what ended up happening because of the pandemic is I was being hit up by mostly friends of friends or family friends going, "Oh, and you're creative and you know how to turn on a computer. Um, what's social media?" Like, because all these people's businesses had to go online on some level. And so I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, I can just edit some content for that person and, you know, manage their social media. Like, I kind of get it. And then essentially from there, I was getting a lot of work just by helping businesses have some sort of online presence. And then from that, I built my own website to promote my services, and I enjoyed that aspect. And now, what is Cheeky Kookaburra was born because of necessity from people needing some sort of online creative support. And also, I couldn't work in hospo anyway, so it was a bit like it was just divine timing. Like I was felt so lost, and then this awful thing in the world happened, and it kind of just built a path for me from there. And yeah, it's just been building ever since.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I guess the next question I was going to raise is how did you start your business? And it sounds like you fell into it almost by necessity through people reaching out from your previous skills, and turning on a computer isn't the most technical
It's
skill, but from having the skills and people knowing who you are and whatnot, and then
yeah.
growing from there.
That's right. And I'm in my office at the moment, and I have uh, a friend of mine. So one of those main clients was a business called Strathbogie Goat, and they they raised and bred um, goat, bought, God, what kind of goat? Whatever, goats. And they had no online source or anything. And long story short, we built a social media platform for them and built out a campaign, and it could sustain the business. And then they were on the front of, well, what I can see in my office right now is Stock and Land, and they're on the front page, and it's weathering the COVID storm is the title. And just being a part of that sort of stuff. And I think part of the reason I was so burnt out from the industry I was in, it was like, what am I giving back? Like, I'm not building a commercial for Honda or Woolworths or IKEA online commercials. I was like, I'm just part of the problem here. Like, there was no sense of feeling like I was doing anything good as such. And so this
Mhm.
was a nice moment to like it was helping people, but also not realizing just how much it was helping me at the same time to find my purpose again.
Gotcha, gotcha. And to give Cheeky Kookaburra a plug, it looks like you can use social media for anything from goats to
From
everything by the sounds of it.
look, if you can sell a goat on social media, you can sell anything. Is what I say. Yeah, I mean, without an online presence in today's world, I, unless you are solely um, running a business on word of mouth, and you want to only be on a certain level, then go for it. But otherwise, without some sort of online presence and building that ecosystem online, yeah, do you even exist? You know?
Yep. Well, that's probably true about that, the world we live in. So that's how you started your business.
Yeah.
And now it's been 6 years. When you first, again, you kind of fell into it, and then decided to make it your full-time thing. Did you set yourself business goals or do some research, chat to
Mm.
get some stakeholders, your employees? How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the early days, again, the very fortunate thing that I was in South Australia. And, I've said this, and this is not to deter anyone, but I can't imagine a version of this business necessarily working or thriving in Victoria because I mean, particularly Melbourne is such a hub of arts and culture and designers and freelancers. And I'm not saying Adelaide or South Australia doesn't have that, but also, okay, I'll be careful with my words here. Um, but it almost felt a little bit South Australia was behind creatively. Um, and so I was in a beautiful position to land, have all this wealth of knowledge and experience in the industry that I was in, and it be so welcomed. Not only that, but very fortunate that I had friends already here established in self-employment, and one friend in particular, Claire Burt, who was my mentor from the get-go. She's a business coach for women, and I was thrown into the networking space, and so I felt like I had a community around me very quickly. So that made a huge difference from the outset. And anyone looking to go into business, like-minded community, your people, finding your people and people that can relate to you, particularly as self-employed people, it's particularly difficult. Um, and can be very lonely, I would recommend finding that networking group or that community. But as the years have gone on, I was very fortunate to meet Chad Oldfield um, maybe 2 years ago, a very successful entrepreneur in his own right. And I was engaged through his general manager at the time to build a website. And from there, I was constantly thinking when it was just me and, you needing to make those sales, it's like, how can I upsell my offerings and what more can I provide my clients? And then I offered photos and video for this particular business, and that's where I met Chad because I was taking photos of him as the CEO. And we got on like a house on fire, basically. And it's just one of those moments where I knew when I met him, it's just something in me knew that person's going to influence my business in some way. And then, funnily enough, 2 years later, he's now a partner in Cheeky Kookaburra, and it's completely changed the trajectory of the business, and it means that I've been able to employ people, open various branches, more offerings, bigger clients, bigger retainers. Um, and yeah, it's changed everything from that first encounter. Mm.
Oh, so yeah, getting yourself out there as a small business owner,
Mm.
networking, and yeah, meeting people to hopefully better your business.
Yeah, and trusting your gut. Like I think, yeah, there was a knowing in the work that I was doing for this group of businesses, and I was like, there's something about this combination of businesses that all pointed back to him, and I was like, there's something in that that I followed my gut with, and funnily enough, it's yeah where I am today.
Oh, it paid off, which is good to
It
see.
sure did.
But yeah, do you now have, a set of goals that you're working towards as a business, and
Mm.
how regularly do you look at those, and what does that look like?
I mean, quite regularly. So, now that obviously I have a business partner and three employees, there are obviously a level of expectations in terms of, predominantly what I do now is less. I'm less on the tools now. I'm more obviously managing the team, but the sales at the end of the day is one of the biggest jobs that I have. And meeting with clients and maintaining that high standard that we like to keep. And so I guess the goals are about, you know, you know, working with, well, how much do we need to make monthly, obviously, to break even and cover all the expenses, and then, you know, then we look ahead 6 months, 12 months, and where we want to be in the next year or two. Um, so, and also part of that is, well, ideally, I want to bring on a ad specialist in 10 months' time. How much more are we going to have to make to cover that expense? But then also, how is that going to affect our retainer packages and how much that costs now? And so I think it's one of those things where you're kind of building the plane as it's going up into the air. Like it's very much trial and error. And I'm, now that I do have that support in a business partner, I do get to play around with what works and what doesn't work. Um, but ultimately, having a financial goal, but like personal goals as well. And but I see that for each of my employees as well, like their balance. What are the things that they're passionate about? And how am I going to get the best out of them? And that's me giving them and finding them very like type, certain types of work that they're going to thrive on. And I know it's going to be better for the client anyway. Um, yeah. So I think that answered your question. It's a bit
Yeah.
waffly.
No, yeah, no, that's all good. So you've got the goals. You've definitely set something down there in stone,
Yeah.
so to speak. But given
Yeah.
the world we live in and the nature of small business, those goals can
They
evolve
chop and change all the
immediately over
time, but
time.
without gold and without direction, I mean, what have we got? And I've in the time of my business, there have definitely been times where I'm just like scrounging. It's a day by day, month by month case. It's not about where you want to be in 3 months. It's sometimes how am I going to make rent? Like that's all part of the fun.
Yep, I guess
But goals are important.
that's the early days, I guess, and now you've built the successful business or building the successful
Mm,
business,
it's
which is
definitely always building, that's for sure.
always building, always developing. I guess the
Always.
other thing that I would add in there around small business, you've got a partner now. It's just people, when you start a small business, you might not be thinking of structures, but there's structures from a financial point of view. So a bit outside
Hmm.
of your creative space, Ange, but
I'll try my best, mate.
financial structures is probably um something to consider with your accountant around whether you've got family trusts where you can run business through family trusts, partnerships you've just got a partner on. I don't know if it's a partnership, but there's various different structures and type ways you can structure your small business.
Hmm.
But I guess, from a fund liability point of view and a few other things, it's probably a good idea to reach out to an accountant, a business
Oh,
accountant when setting that up.
absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, the current, so obviously I went from a sole trader and transitioned into a company. And, you know, through the whole transition into this partnership, and I have a family trust now as well, um, is I always had my own people in my corner. Now, the company accounting runs through the accountant that deals with other companies as well in Chad's businesses, but I still have my own accountant. I still have my own lawyer. I'm still represented outside of the partnership, and just having, your own autonomy regardless of any kind of combinations coming through. is really important, and to seek advice and to get the best outcome and know that you're protected in, various degrees. And our what is it called? What's the This is, and this, everybody, is showing how creative I am and how not great I am with accounting stuff. I mean,
Oh,
contracts and such like that, like,
mhm.
making sure everything's above board and having your own source of information in, especially my accountant, who I love and trust.
Yeah. So having a bit of a delineation between who you are, Ange, as a person and who you are,
Mm,
Ange, as a business owner or small
a
business
hundred
owner.
percent. Yeah, you don't get, yeah, I never felt like I've been lost in, I feel like I've been picked up and just taken on a path where I don't really understand. And I'm going to be the first person who puts their hand up and be like, you know, running the business for 5 years by myself, my head was in the sand a lot about the money side of stuff, because I'm like, I'm a creative. You wear so many hats, and that was the last hat I would ever put on until tax time rolled around, or the bookkeeper's like, where's this receipt? Like, I just, you know, eh, taking my head out of the sand around the accounting, the financials, the goals, financial goals side of stuff changed everything for my business. And for those terrified, and that's scary. Money's scary, but if you don't take hold of it, it's just going to eat at you more than if you just look at it. So just look at it. Is my advice, and get great advice.
So early days challenges was, I guess, the financials one of your biggest
Oh, mate.
challenges.
Cash flow, right? Like, and any small business is gonna resonate with this, is when you're busy, you're like, hell yeah, I'm busy. But when you're really effing busy, you're not doing the sales. Like, you're not then constantly promoting yourself. And that's what I would get bogged down in the actual execution of the work and not think about in 3 months' time, oh, all of this is going to wrap up. And I haven't, you know, thought about what am I going to be working on in 3 months' time, or what deposits I've put down, or that sort of stuff. And you don't necessarily have the cash flow to hire a freelancer, and because then you get in this stuck period of like, well, if I hire a freelancer, then I'm still managing somebody. And in the creative industry, particularly, it's that, you know, you need to manage the quality control. I mean, you need to manage the quality control of anything, but creatively it's a bit hard because someone's got a completely different creative vision to me. And it can only be so much aligned with the expectation of the client as well. You know, someone's going to edit a video completely different to me, even though it's the same concept and same story. Um, so yeah, cash flow, my friend, is probably the
It's
most terrifying.
it's cash. So cash flow, the biggest challenge, and then I guess how you overcome that is through planning and hiring or outsourcing to
Hmm.
external professionals and the like.
Yeah, um, I think a lot of, I mean, it's all about planning. It's probably the best thing I did when I realized that I was just not getting ahead, was really, and it was really about being so bogged down in the creative side of stuff that I didn't feel I was pushing the sales. But really, that's just my scarcity mindset, right? Like, it's my safe space to be in the creative and not in the sales or the financial part. And I was like, well, this is actually on me. And so the best thing that I did was actually isolate a day. And I was like, no, Ange, this is not a get on the tools day. This is not a, cut together a nice video. It's not plan, a graphic for the client or put a pitch document together. It's actually about sitting down. Who can I contact? What networks do I have? What do I have available to me already? It's not in reinventing the wheel every time. And I think when you're so overwhelmed by the concept of needing to sell, or find new clients, you think you've never done it before. Um, but in actual fact, it's there, it's available. And so yeah, building that into my routine at that time was essential to fit like having growth and not feeling like where's the next invoice coming from, you know?
Yep. So taking a day to focus on the business side of
Mm.
things rather than the product or the service that you're offering,
Correct.
more
Yeah.
more focusing on the cash flow and the
The
finances
cash
and the
flow, looking
planning and
at the
all that.
money,
Hmm.
the planning, and I had a great mentor at the time as well, and so that was my hour with her was that day, and it would just kind of kick me up the arse to be like, nah, I got a list of 20 people I'm going to contact today, and then a list of 5 previous clients that I'm going to hit up and see how they're going. So, and more often than not, a couple of jobs would come from that.
Yeah. So outside of the financial side of things, did you have any
Mm.
other great challenges that you've worked through over the last 6 years?
Hmm.
Hit you with the tough ones.
Yeah, man. Jeez. Look, I guess when I think about challenges, and it's hard, I'm in a very privileged position now, and it's bittersweet to be able to remember the challenges and not remember them. But I think just work-life balance, uh, probably my biggest challenge, and I didn't realize it was a challenge, was actually working from home. So I'm now very fortunately in my own office. Um, and I didn't realize that, and I've got a 4-year old um, who I have 50% of the time, and I realized that I never switched off. And any business owner is going to know that you never really switch off. You're constantly like it's your constant, it's your baby, right? But moving moving into an office meant that I could appreciate and love my home again. And it meant that I could switch off, not completely, but more so. And then I had more valuable time with Quinn. And I realized like the mum guilt in me was like, I'm always spaced out in a way. But I realized that it's about quality and not quantity. And and when I realized that, I could shed a bit of that guilt. Like I'm trying to grow something here, and I'm trying to sustain a beautiful life for myself and my partner now, and my daughter, and so I'm growing something here, and I'm not, look, and this is not every day. Some days the mum guilt gets me real good, but I'm doing my best,
Hmm.
and being able to distance myself from the computer into my home has been really helpful. And I will say, not everyone has the luxury of being able to go into an office, and I get that. But just even co-working somewhere with a friend for a day, a week, made a huge difference in those first 5 years.
Hmm.
Feeling like you had a bit of a team when it was just you, but getting out of your house and meeting up with people like-minded, again, all back to community, all back to people that get it, how hard it is.
So yeah, delineating again what we said before, delineating between home, Ange again the person, which probably doesn't sound great, but Ange
Exactly.
the person
No,
and
no,
Ange
I
the
get it.
business owner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So is there any tips? You've already provided some tips around starting a small business, around having a community and whatnot. The things that pop up into to my mind is, I guess, having a defined target client, defining, who you want to
Absolutely.
work with,
Hmm.
and then being able to articulate your product or service, whatever your small business is about, well, to them to
Hmm.
then be able to drive growth with your target.
100%. Without a defined brand, a brand voice, a brand persona, you're going to provide, if you don't have that locked, you're sending mixed messages. And when you send mixed messages, you either attract no one or you attract the wrong people. And the filtering down to exactly who you want becomes harder. Um, and a lot of what we do at Cheeky Kookaburra is providing businesses with that brand and that voice and defining who they are online, obviously. But I mean, as we said before, if you're not online, are you even alive?
Mhm.
um, but, without that clear, defined um, story, you are misleading uh, your audience, and your audience is going to go elsewhere. And this is the thing, probably the best thing that I learned over my time, which I myself really needed to accept, is you are your business. And the thing is, you can't hide in the shadows. You need to be at the forefront of your business. Don't hide behind your products, don't hide behind your services. Like, it has to be you, because, there can be three marketing agencies pitching to you. But if you're going to connect more to me and my personality and who I am, you're probably going to choose me over, someone else that may have the same price or lower. So there are obviously going to be, clients that are only going to go for the price range, and so be it. But at the end of the day, it's all about human connection. And I think people want to know and trust you. And that is at the core of every brand and every business. And establishing that is so important. So you are directed to your people and your clients and your community. And there's enough work. And I think people get scared that if I niche down, or if I'm only talking to that group of people, it's I need to service everyone. I need to be able to provide everything for everyone. It's like, nah, there's enough work there, and you're going to thrive in that in your demographic, your audience, because that's what they need from you.
And the other tip that I would say, again, it's around the structures and financials, making sure it's all right and making sure you've got, your accountant or your external advisors to help you through, changes in your business, going from sole
Mhm.
trader to getting a partner or whatever that looks like in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to get advice. In if I if I could go back and change anything, it would be on board, or I engaged a bookkeeper and an accountant because I was told to, and I was like, I've engaged them. My work here is done. Everything's going to be fine now. And I didn't talk to them, and I didn't seek advice. And I'm not saying that they were the best for me, but they were a starting point, right? I was like, just because you've got them on your books doesn't mean you're learning or you're growing from them. So engage and trust and make them part of the team. I think that's what, if I could have started that earlier, I would have. I think that would have saved a lot of stress and anxiety around the financials of my business, and the goals, the financial goals. Because again, it's that head in the sand mentality. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I got the bookkeeper, I did that because everyone else has one. I didn't actually truly embrace what they can do for you, and the advice and the guidance that and the support. It's just support at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. No worries. Well, thanks for joining me today, Ange. That's a wrap
Thanks for having
on.
me.
No worries. That's a wrap on today's Wealth Builder podcast. Yeah, thanks for sharing your small business insights on how you built a successful business. If
Thanks, mate.
anyone does have some questions about branding or wanting a website, feel free to reach out to Cheeky Kookaburra.
Yeah, for sure. Instagram is probably our best starting point. So cheeky underscore kookaburra. And we can chat about your business, see how we
Watch
can make it thrive online. And I've got some funny reels.
Watch some reels of Ange on there, that's for
Being
sure.
ridiculous. The things we have to do these days, mate.
Mm. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening along as well. If you like today's episode, feel free to drop us a message or share it with someone you might know who might find our conversation valuable. And look forward to bringing you the next episode in a fortnight's time. And until then, have a great day. Thanks, Ange.
Thanks, mate.
The information in this podcast is of a general nature only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and, if necessary, seek personal financial advice from a licensed financial advisor. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future results. All views expressed are those of the presenter and should not be relied upon as a substitute for professional advice.